I got the public health crisis. So the latest weapon.
We have one?
Well, you know what we have is progressives, I think, have learned quite a bit from the last year with the the COVID-19 and all the stuff that's gone on. And I think they've discovered that, if we could name something a public health crisis, we can do quite a bit here. We can suspend laws. We could pay no attention to the Constitution, U.S. or state. We could take rights away from people. We could do pretty much anything we want to do in the name of the public health crisis. And I think we've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of abuse of rights and things like that, a lot of government overreach, particularly by Democrat-type governors. If you look at Phil Murphy in New Jersey, I mean, it's terrible in New Jersey. You have Andrew Cuomo in New York, who's being investigated now for his finally. I don't think anything will come of it, but at least somebody's looking at his the way he handled nursing homes and then how they covered that up afterwards. And even out here, or especially out here with our hopefully soon to be recalled Gavin Newsom, just a lot of abuse of rights and a lot of abuse of people and disregard for people's welfare out here, all in the name of the public health crisis. And yeah. Oh, okay.
Keep going, Joe.
Yeah, I shouldn't be looking at you guys. The one of the things they've come up with is, again, if you can, with a public health crisis, for instance, this stuff is going to be turned on gun owners. Now, for looking at the so-called gun violence, which is just a made-up political term anyway, but
right.
But calling gun violence a public health crisis now enables them to do a lot of stuff with it. And if you look at Joe Biden's or President Biden's latest nominee for attorney or for Surgeon General is Vivek Murthy, I think, is actually Obama's former Surgeon General, but he's a big advocate of treating gun violence as a public health crisis. And if they're able to do that, it frees up a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff they can do. They can ignore basically a lot of things. And I think they've discovered that, and I think that's the next big thing we see coming at us in terms of attacks on the Second Amendment. Because we've got Joe Biden is also reportedly thinking about declaring or at least considering declaring a national emergency over gun violence again. And none of this is supported by facts or anything like that. But once you call it an emergency, now there's a lot of stuff that they can do, a lot of things they get to ignore. And all of this stuff is fear-based. And I think that was one of the big lessons learned with the COVID crisis. It's, if you can scare people enough, they'll accept lots of things. And this is not new for the Democrats. They've been doing this since, at least since the Civil War, since their inception, really. And I just read a book. It was called, what was it called? It was called Negroes and the Firearms Tradition. And it was written by a black guy recently. And it covers the history from what black people in this country went through from about the Civil War through Reconstruction and all the way up to the present. And when you read about something like that, I mean, everybody knows about slavery and that kind of stuff. But when you read what actually happened, because it's filled with just story after story after story of real stuff that happened to real people, and, how firearms played a real part in them being able to defend themselves. And if you look at this, the Democratic Party was on the wrong side of that from way back then all the way up to now with what they called the Black Codes, with Jim Crow laws, with the May issue gun laws that we still see here in California, and all of them intended to keep black people from being able to defend themselves, and all of it based on fear.
Yeah.
So the using fear is nothing different or new. What's new is the public health crisis approach to it.
Well, it is, because we just had an incident that was called a public health. If you think, well, gee, even if they call it a public health crisis, it's still a right, so they can't take it away. Really? Because we just spent a year where they told you can't work, you can't leave your house, you can't travel,
you can't worship, you can't assemble. That's right, and the American people accept it. You still see this thing with these masks. I mean, my goodness, how much do you have to learn that they don't do anything? And now they're doubling up on them. People are still walking around with them.
Right.
And I mean, but it's fear-based stuff. And that's why, the public health crisis thing, that's why I was so upset with a certain supervisor out here. For, a little while ago, Nathan Fletcher proposed at the board level there that they have a resolution calling racism a public health crisis in San Diego County. Now, any clear-thinking, rational adult knows that racism is not a public health crisis in San Diego County, but the resolution passed 5-0. And, 2 Republican supervisors supported this. And what's so dangerous and what's so infuriating about this is, when you support something that's obviously just a blatant lie, it's just a blatant political tool, just meant to really divide San Diegans, really. And when you go ahead and vote for something like that and support it, then you're just moving that agenda forward. And the reasoning for supporting it, and I haven't talked to this supervisor. I will at some point. But, someone who's very protective of this supervisor, who I didn't name in the article, but was saying that, well, what's he supposed to do? If he stands up and votes against it, they'll call him a racist. Well, yes, you're an old white guy, you're a Republican. Of course they're going to call you a racist. If you're afraid of that kind of stuff, you're not going to be helpful. If you're not going to stand up just because of that, then that's going to be a problem. And that's kind of the thing that's really upsetting. When, if a Second Amendment issue comes up, if we have a shooting, or the next time we have a shooting, and there's a big call to, to end concealed carry, or to do this or to do that, if these people are going to stand up to this, they're going to be called all sorts of names and all sorts of things. So, it's the same kind of thing, and that's why I say it's kind of dangerous. The public health crisis thing, or the racism thing, just how dangerous that is. I was just reading today in Boston. The city schools in Boston have decided that they're no longer going to offer advanced placement classes for, I think it was 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And the reason being that there were too many white kids and Asian kids enrolled in the classes, so they were going to stop them. And that's the kind of damage you do when you support this kind of stuff. And that's why I was really upset about that stuff. So, the way you deal with this and the way you address this, and I say this to Democrats and Republicans alike, with the Democratic Party, that party's been hijacked by lunatics that pretty much hate the country. And if you're a Democrat, get involved, vote these people out, vote good men and women into your party and take your party back. And the same thing with Republicans. We have a lot of, unfortunately, swamp-type Republicans in there now that aren't fighting, that aren't doing what they should do. Vote them out. Put good men and women back in there. The government's supposed to be ours. It belongs to the people, so take it back. So that was kind of the gist of it this week. Left you all speechless, huh?
What more can you say? All right, buddy. That was awesome. Hey, folks. Again, thanks, Joe. And check out all of Joe's articles on the blog section of Orange County, San Diego County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County's websites.
Thanks for watching our Magnum show, where we dig into gun owners topics a little more in depth. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.